I joke because I think a lot of the opportunities that come my way are like pitched as like, oh, you're an emerging creator. And by emerging, it's just like a very polite way to say small. And I'm like, I've been an emerging creator for the past 10 years. Just waiting to emerge, just ready to emerge at any point. But what I found this podcast to be, watching it, listening to it, and what I hope this can be for people is like, there's a lot of content out there for like, you're just starting out. And you get what I call the iPhone in a dream advice, which is like, just start it, make stuff. It doesn't matter if it's good, just put it up and, get used to the experience and something great will come of it, right? And then there's like another category of advice, which is like, you're a really established professional. Like, how do you negotiate brand deals? How do you raise your rates and do all this stuff? And there's not much for the middle. And I've been in that middle for a long time. I'm like, I don't need advice on like believing in myself. I don't have problems starting and trying and failing and uploading, but I'm not successful yet in whatever way you want to call a successful creator, whether that's subscriber numbers or, having a team or whatever. Like, I'm still in the making and there's not a lot for us right here. So, I joke that I'm an emerging creator, but like, I'm really kind of in this middle ground that I don't feel like there's a good name for it yet. I'm just trying to be somebody. So make a way, make a way, make a way.
Hey everyone, I'm Hallease, endeavoring to persevere as always, and welcome back to another episode of the Trying to Be Somebody video podcast, where we interview mostly BIPOC artists with the goal of helping you. I am so excited to bring you today's episode because it is in juxtaposition to the last episode of the Trying to Be Somebody video podcast, which interviewed Santika, who was an influencer just starting off in the game. Just seeing her process of entering what to many probably feels like a very saturated market and trying to carve out a space for herself, what that looks like. But on the flip side of that, I wanted to bring on Taylor for today's episode because Taylor has been in the content creation space. It's been a minute. And so I wanted to have someone like Taylor on to show you what that other side of it looks like. How you define success as a content creator. If you look at the stats, if you will, the facts and figures of the size of Taylor's channel and her digital reach, it probably seems small, but then you start to talk to her and you realize all the different ways that she's been able to find success merely because of her existence on any platform, really. I think it begins to reshape how you think about what your metrics are around success on this platform or any platform that you're on. And so I'm so excited to have Taylor on to just discuss her career, discuss how she defines success, and just where she's at as a content creator, as a writer. She's just such an interesting and fun person to talk to. And so I cannot wait for y'all to listen/watch this episode. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor today, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with over 30,000 classes for you to take to discover your creativity or find it if you feel like you've lost it. I am actually a teacher on the Skillshare platform. I love teaching over there. I have a few classes actually on Skillshare, but so far it is without a doubt the favorite class that everyone has of mine on Skillshare is Tell a Story in a Minute or Less. So many of y'all loved that class. In it, I show 3 different methods of how to create online content and tell an engaging, fun story in a minute or less. And I give you some food for thought. I go over what kind of gear, things to think about with lighting, storytelling. It's so much fun. And it's been so great to see all of the different posts that y'all have tagged me in where you actually went through and did the project. So keep tagging me in those. Love seeing them. If you're interested in checking out Skillshare, the first 1,000 people to use the code Hallease will get a free premium trial membership. It is a good time. You can definitely check out my class or the many, many others. Again, there's so much you can do on Skillshare. It's an amazing platform to check out. And yeah, without further ado, let's hang out with Taylor. Just giving people a background who maybe don't know who you are. Can you talk a little bit about like when you started your channel? I know what I like to call your channel, but I'm gonna let you talk about yourself.
Yeah. So I started my channel in 2011. I was in college. I was bored, did not have a lot of friends. And so I was just sort of like, let me do this internet thing when it was still weird. Um, and then was kind of making just like whatever little personal stuff until 2014, I think, is when I really started to take it seriously. And I've been uploading weekly or bi-weekly from 2014 to now. I've taken two like 6-week breaks. But otherwise it's been like consistency. And I make personal storytelling kinds of videos. I always tell people, like, if you like The Moth, like that sort of style of like a podcast, like I do a lot of that. But I also weave in social justice. I weave in cultural commentary. I'm kind of all over the place. But the way that I was most recently kind of framing it is like, I make content that gets people to ask big questions. And I mean that I like want you to answer me. Like, I'm not just being like, think about it. I have a back and forth in the comments. We do like collaborative work on my channel, which is not, I will say, trendy. It's not like the hot new thing to like come to YouTube and do homework. But I always say I'm a YouTuber's YouTuber because that's what I make for myself. Probably every job that I have gotten since 2016, I have gotten because of my YouTube channel. Both like a big girl like W-2 job and like lots of freelance work. And I work with people who are like, hey, I really like what you're doing. I think your style is cool. I want to bring you on to this bigger project. So part of the reason that I think that I haven't been super focused on growth for myself is just because I'm like, all day long, I am doing this for other people. And so for me, like, my channel is very protected. Like, I am only going to do what I want to do, very stubbornly so.
So like when people ask me about your channel and what it is, I always tell people, imagine a writer who chose YouTube as their medium to deliver their writing.
Yeah.
And then you have It's Radish Time.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, I'm a writer who makes videos. Like, sometimes people try to be like, oh yeah, you're like a filmmaker. I'm like visual is part of it. I use visual to tell my story. For a while, I was making videos that like could have just been a podcast, but like visual is part of it. But it really is the writing that I think sets me apart and is what makes what I produce worth producing.
And I would definitely say you are like a YouTuber's YouTuber because you're not afraid to talk about just really interesting topics that are hard to cover if you're, how do you say this? If you're a YouTuber who's concerned about growth and concerned about blowback and concerned about all those kind of things, like, you know, imagery and all that kind of stuff. I love coming to your channel because, yeah, it's like, here's a very, very authentic conversation about a topic. And you can just watch things happen in the comments. But it's also really beautiful to see, and I feel this way for my own channel as well, the audience you've cultivated, because they are very interested in engaging with you and like having more conversation. Yeah, I'm gonna just ask, why do you think you haven't gotten bigger yet?
Number of reasons. One, I'm very, very stubborn. I could be doing more in the SEO space. I will tell you, titles and thumbnails are my least favorite thing. Like, as soon as I get to the point where I can have a team, like, the first thing I want to do is just like outsource that. I hate it. I am resistant to a fault about doing the things that I know will get more eyes on it. And I also won't make a video I don't want to make just because I think it'll do well. Like, I hear people say like the one for the reel, one for the meal, or Sarah Dietschy does the like the 2 for you, 1 for me. I'm like, no, all for me. If I don't love it, I'm not making it. And so I'm like, I'm holding myself back in a way, and I know that. I think another way is, as you said, because I get real about stuff. I'm really, really hesitant to take a brand deal. I have done it very few times, and not for the lack of opportunity, but because I'm like, I'm not on YouTube to sell people's eyeballs. I mean, this is a very privileged thing to say, right? Because the only reason that I can do that is because I've had full-time jobs up until this year that paid my bills, and so I didn't need it. But I could say, like, you know, I don't want to sell people's attention. I've always sort of thought, like, you know, we talk about the term influencer, right? if your only influence is to sell somebody something, that's not influence to me. There's a book that I was just reading. It's called The First Collection of Criticism by a Living Female Rock Critic. It's about music criticism because that's something that I'm also moving more into. But the author is writing about how like coming up in this world of music criticism, everybody was telling her how to do things. And she was like, well, why would I want to follow your script? What you've done with your power is boring. And so I'm like, I really think that like having people's attention is such a privilege, and I don't want to do boring things with it. I don't want to use it for like being a salesperson. So I know that that's not super friendly to growth. I know that the fact that I reject all best practices of SEO out of just pure and like being annoyed with it is not conducive to growth. I really only grow by word of mouth. Every so often somebody will like shout me out, and then people will come over and like some of them will stay and some of them will be like, no, this is not for me. But the people who stay, I think that I punch above my weight in engagement. Like the people who are with me are really with me, and that's really, really special. And I don't ever want to take that for granted.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think there's also a beauty and a privilege to having a W-2 job or like having your main source of income be something else. So that way, yeah, you can have the capacity to like maintain a level of authenticity for a really long time. Because even now, as I have YouTube as a source of income, but not my full source, I'm very particular about what sort of, like you said, brand deals and things like that I entertain on the channel. Like, you know, Skillshare is one that I entertain a lot on the channel. And that's because like it aligns with my values.
I want to be clear. I don't begrudge people who take a different route. Like, we all have rent to pay. Like, I get it. And like the amount that I've worked, I've had a full-time day job. You know, I'm 30 years old. I quit my full-time job this year. I'm still freelancing. YouTube is still a very small slice of the pie. So like up until this year, I was doing an amount of work that was not healthy. And so like, that's also a trade-off is like, if you don't want to like ruin your body and you want to get your bills paid and you want to take care of the people around you, like take a brand deal. That's fine. I think there's kind of a balancing point too, though. Like I have a small audience. And so I found that brands were wanting to pay, you know, as a micro influencer, they're like, well, you only have, you know, 20K subscribers. So this is the rate for that. I'm like, well, you're not just paying for those people's attention. You're also paying for my time and my expertise. Like I'm working for people with 10 million subscribers, you know, like I know what I'm doing. Yeah. And that costs money. So I wasn't being offered the value that I felt I provided. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to do that then.
And that's the other thing too, because like for those of you who don't know, Taylor's actually been involved with like quite a few large campaigns as like in front of the screen talent, behind the screen talent as well, writing, things like that. Like y'all, low key, I'm trying to figure out how to get Taylor on a project and she writes something for me. But you know, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I can afford you, real talk. And that's a flex.
Let's talk. We can talk about the homie rate.
The homie rate. But that's the thing. The homie rate should be higher than the regular rate because I'm your homie. So I want you to succeed. I want you to survive and thrive. You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
That's me having a moment right there of annoyance with the homie rate. Hey everyone, a quick break from the podcast. I hope you're enjoying the conversation with Taylor. To give you a few announcements, if you've been hanging out with the Trying to Be Somebody podcast for a while, then you know what this is all about. First things first, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please make sure to like the video and engage with it down below. That really helps keep this channel growing and just helps me out a lot. Appreciate you in advance for that. Likewise, if you are listening to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, consider rating it. 5 stars is preferred, but I am always open to constructive criticism, so you know, do what you must. But please rate it. That does help with discoverability as well. Thank you so much for listening and stopping by. Really appreciate it. Finally, if you want to take things a step further, consider joining the Patreon, patreon.com/Hallease. There you get early access to these podcast episodes, as well as private weekly vlogs from me, behind the scenes of being a content creator, video producer, YouTuber, whatever you want to call me. All of that and more on the Patreon. And with that, let's get back to Taylor. So my question to you is, because I know you quit working in W-2 land. I always try to caveat that, because I feel like when people talk about like, oh, I quit my job and this and that, I'm just like, just because you,
still like,
just because you quit the W-2 thing doesn't mean you're just sitting here twiddling your thumbs. You're working. So you let go of W-2 stuff last year, and now you're a full-time freelancer. How's it going?
It's been interesting. I have learned a lot so far, and I've freelanced on the side of all my jobs. So I've been doing this. It's not new to me, but in a way it is. I'm a lot more concerned about the business side of it in a way that I didn't expect to be. And in a way that I'm like, I see why people hire out lawyers and accountants and all that.
How much is it taking away from like just that creative flow that you probably had? I'm assuming you had before. You know what I mean?
What really takes away from the flow is like following up on like invoices and stuff, because when you have a W-2, you're not like, all right, I need this money in. Like you're like, I'll send a follow-up email, but like, I'll get it. And I'm like, okay, I did this work 6 weeks ago. It takes me out of it a little bit. I have to be a lot more mindful of going out and finding things and not just letting it come to me and being like, all right, well, this project's going to end in a month. What's going to be the next project? And kind of thinking a little bit farther ahead. I don't mind it, because like I gave up doing all that logistical stuff for a corporation that wasn't me. Now it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to do the busy work, I'm going to do it for something that I directly benefit from. But yeah, it's a little bit almost disorienting at first. Now that the whole day is mine, I've had to be a lot more on myself about like, all right, you need to like structure your day somehow. That's the biggest thing that I'm learning. It's just like, it's a lot easier for me to do things that other people expect of me. But if there's certain things that nobody expects of me but me, like I can let that slide. And now I can't let that slide. So I'm just really trying to be like less of the like, I'm an artist and I'm not going to sell out and I'm only going to make what I want to make. And like, okay, well, you run a business now. Like you did that to yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm still figuring it out. It's been 5 months. We're making our way. Although I will say one other thing that I have really found great about freelancing is because I saved up money and I had a cushion and I didn't need to just take every single thing that came to me at first, I feel so much more empowered than I ever did in a day job to say like,
nice.
All right, you want me to do this extra project? Great. It's going to be this much more money. Oh, here's my timeline. No, actually, I can't rush this and do it over the weekend because my weekend is for me. I feel much more able to say like, hey, these are the terms. Like we can have a great working relationship, but here's what I need and here's what you need to do. And like, do they match up? Great, let's work together. Do they not? Maybe I'm not for you.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like most people when they go into freelance work, there's not that safety net. There's not really anything to fall back on. And so it just really throws you into that scarcity mindset so fast. And you're just saying yes, 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 yes to everything, which there are seasons where, hey, you just got to be saying yes to stuff. And it is what it is. But I always say if you can have that cushion to be able to be a little bit more selective, that can really start to like immediately up the caliber of clients you're working with just from the jump. Because you seem like you know what you're doing that much more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like I gave myself a year cushion.
Girl,
I will say
amen.
like, which is amazing. I mean, my last day job was in tech and like I was being well compensated.
Yeah.
So I was able to put a fair amount away. I almost think that I waited too long to bet on myself. I really think that I could have done it sooner. So like, I will say there's like, give yourself a cushion because it is making my life so much easier because I can be selective and I did have a runway to get off the ground and I could charge what I wanted to charge and not undervalue my services just to get some money coming in. But don't wait too long that now I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm like starting a career over. And like I'm 30 and that's not that old, but it's like I'm not 22. There are people that I consider my peers that are like that did this 2 years ago, 3 years ago that I'm like catching up with now. So you've got to find the right balance where you have a safety net, but you don't wait too long to like really kind of start going after what you want.
Yeah. The safety net ended up being Creators for Change for me. And Adobe was giving out a grant at the time. Yeah. And so those two things together, I didn't necessarily have anything saved up, if you will, but of the like signing both of those contracts back to back, I was like, oh, I know how to produce this in a way where most of that money will stay in house because I will put in the work equity, like the sweat equity into that.
Right.
And so from there, I'll be good for about 6 months. Yeah. I feel like anywhere from like, I feel like if you can get to 6 months worth of savings before you take that emphasis on calculated, small emphasis on risk, that can really just put you in a really good spot to keep things going. Because like in about 6 months, if you're on your grind and doing you and like really getting going, in about 6 months, it seems like most of the other people I talk to, even the people that end up going back to W-2 work, by the way, something comes in and like that extends the runway that much further after 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like it took me a little while to get started. In my first month to have one project that covers my rent, great. Nice, but like this is now my 6th month. I had 3 things come in that are going to be like big projects. And so like it's just that amount of time that's starting to tick over. And, you know, one thing that I really appreciate. So my parents are lawyers, but my mom has her own business. And I was sort of talking to my parents like, you know, I think I want to go full-time freelance and, you know, I've saved up this money and I'm applying for this grant. I applied for a grant last year that I thought I was like for certain going to get. I had made it through rounds of interviews. I was like, I'm feeling really good about this. I'm exactly what they say in this brief that they're looking for. Like the grant is going to be what I can say, you know, go back to my employer and say like, hey, you know, been great. I got this grant, so I have to go.
Yeah.
And then I didn't get it. And I was like, all right, well, should I wait? You know, if I wait till the end of the year, then I could save up. And my mom was like, you're quitting your job. She was like, you know, I had saved up the money. Had I needed that grant to live, you know, I might have worked a little bit more, but I was like, I kept trying to build the cushion. And she was like, your money is for living. It is supposed to do a job for you. And if you were just like being like, well, the job is the future. Like, when is that future going to come? And so
future's really now.
For kind of like kicking me and being like, it's now. The future is now.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah, that really helped because she understood it. I think it would have been much harder if my parents were like, freelance.
Oh,
what's that? You know, like, that's a fake job. Like, no, why would you do that? So I appreciate that my mom was like, I did it. I went out on my own and you can do it too. My W-2 jobs were for the big brand names too, in the nonprofit side, or I worked in politics. And so I'd work for candidates that people knew. And I, for a while, was like really on that track, like really doing these like high powered jobs. And I was miserable. So tired and sad. And like, it takes so much out of you working these like, you know, fancy jobs that, you know, they want 80 hours a week out of you. And I was like, but I'm successful. I should be happy. Why am I not happy? Like, my mom can tell her friends what this job is and they're all proud of me. Why does this suck? And even so, like, even if you're not getting something that your parents can understand, like, the person who has to live your life is you. And that's sort of something that I realized that I was like, okay, I'm going to go be a freelancer. And some people are going to see that as a step back.
Yeah.
But like, I have to wake up in my body every day and do this job. And so like, I need to like it. You're not building up to a future. Like when you're in school or something, you're like, okay, I'm doing this now for a payoff later. Like what you are doing now is just it. And so like, you've got to like it. You've got to find something in it. So that's what I'm trying to do.
So question for you,
Mm-hmm.
as an emerging creator, what needs to happen for you to feel like you have emerged officially? Like, what is your definition of, how are you defining what your success will be? You know what I mean? Everyone defines it differently. I think that's also something that's worth mentioning. Like, I think I have no desire to be a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers and this, that, and the third going on. Like, no.
Yeah, like I think it changes constantly because I've had enough friends. Like, I started out 2011 through 2014 with this like really small, close-knit community, and some people blew up, and some people left the industry or like left doing this for fun and like went to live like a normal, quiet life, and some people went behind the scenes, and I've kind of always been walking the line. You know, I ask my subscribers like, who else do you like to watch? Who do you still, you know, want me to collaborate with or whatever? And they're like, everybody else who we started watching 5 years ago doesn't make videos anymore. So I'm like in this weird middle space, but I've seen people like get fame and be like, this was not worth it. And then I've seen people, you know, go in a lot of different directions, and like I could see myself doing any of them. So like, there's a part of me that, you know, goes to sleep at night and goes like, someday I'll have my Netflix special. And then there's part of me, or like, I, you know, writes a book or whatever. I do say success for me would be like not being on a treadmill, be able to go away, do the Michaela Cole,
amen,
disappear, make something, come back, here you go, and then disappear again and make something. Like, to have that ability, I'm realizing that that can take a lot of forms. That can look like I'm a really huge YouTube channel that people will come back for no matter what, or I get the blessing of a well-funded media company that just gives me the money. Or it looks like I'm doing behind the scenes stuff in the background and I work on what I want to work on. I would love to be able to like be in a place where I could make something and not have to like promote it on Twitter. Like, success to me looks like not being on Twitter.
I love that. So not to like, I want to unpack this for a second. Because not to like burst your bubble, you know what I mean? But
I mean, yeah, it's you don't get to do that.
I mean, we've got who like Ryan Reynolds is still promoting things he's doing on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like, big celebrities.
Yeah, I'll say like a Bo Burnham, or like even like John Green, right? The homie was on it and was like, actually, I shan't. Like,
I shan't.
And like, I really admire that. The problem is you have to be on it to get big enough to get off of it. And that, I don't know if that level is ever going to happen for me. But maybe the level where I'm not trying to make a weekly YouTube video, and maybe I show up every couple of months with something because I have enough stability and enough of a following that they'd come looking for it. That would be nice. I really don't know what it looks like. I'm still trying to feel my way out. And I feel like right now I'm having to make a lot just to know where I'm going. Whatever it is, being able to go away and work on something for a concerted period of time and not just be reacting and discoursing and being so like hyper visible, that would be the real ultimate goal for me.
So my other thought is like, why do you think you're not that now?
Yeah, I still feel like, I mean, I told you, right, I've had 2 breaks ever. One was this past summer. I quit my job and then I was like, I'm going to take a month off. It ended up being 6 weeks because I was like, oh, I am not ready. I have some things to unpack. But it was like my first time not doing 3 to 4 jobs. And I went down to like 0 for 6 weeks and I needed that. The other time was when I was working on a political campaign and like it was getting towards election day. And I was like, I I cannot sustain this. So I took 6 weeks off then. But both times it felt like my star was rising, right? I'm emerging, and I went away, and then I came back, and not everybody came back with me. Okay. And I don't feel like I'm ready to be able to go away and know that there's somebody going to be there when I come back. Yeah. And that's like partially just like emotional stuff where I'm like, is it that I just get all my validation externally? But you know, that's the part about being like on this precipice always, right? Is like, if I go away, can I come back to anything? I don't know when I'm going to feel like, yes, I can.
Yeah. I was asking that mostly because like, so with becoming a resident, you get it. And it's a job. It's a W-2 job that Adobe provides. And you have to do W-2 job Adobe things on top of your project that you pitched and all of that. So it's very much an exchange of stuff. But what happens usually with the people that do it for video is, and usually if they're YouTubers as well, their channel dies for a year because they're so focused on the job part of the Adobe thing. And that happened with my channel. And it was the first time I actually saw my channel went negative subscriber growth for like the last 2 or 3 months of 2021. It went negative in subscriber. Even when my channel was like growing at inches, it was still in the positive by like maybe 100 subscribers, you know, joined in a month, like overall net positive growth, right? Because people unsubscribe from you, subscribe to you all the time. You know, it's a constant flux of stuff. But it was the first time that I'd ever seen it go negative, like overall. Overall, your channel didn't grow; it decreased, and I was like, "Oh God!"
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had that happen a couple times, and both of them have been after a break. And especially because so much of my audience is word of mouth, that I get like I have the smallest trickle of people who are just coming and finding me organically, but I'm not titling shit to be found. Like, so people,
you really don't. You really don't.
Yes, someday I'm gonna figure out these titles, Hallease, but I can't do it. I hate it so much. But like, it's scary. It is really easy to believe that success is that number, or your value is that number, or the views are how much your ideas matter. Even though I know that number does not contain the sum of my value, it is very, very easy to get spooked when that number goes down.
It really is. Like, I wish I feel like it's this thing that you constantly have to like put a concerted effort to not think about, for sure. I'll get so many people that'll ask me how to grow their channels and whatnot. And I'm like, I am the wrong person to ask for that, because what's a niche? I don't know her. I don't know.
You and me both.
The niche is me. There's one me. And here I'm the niche. I used to tell my YouTube partner manager that, and she would just like laugh into the oblivion, like, girl, you're never hitting 100K. And sure enough, I still haven't. So.
Close though. Maybe that, I don't know when this is going up, but it would be really fun for me if you already hit 100K by the time this goes up and you're wrong.
It won't happen. I was supposed to literally, I was like watching the metrics. I'm a Virgo, so I do be in the metrics. You know what I'm saying? Look at the predictabilities and whatnot. I was supposed to hit 100K back in like 2020.
I stopped looking at those metrics because they've never been accurate for me. It's like, I don't know, when's the next time that somebody feels like they want to say my name on their channel? Because that's the only time. But that means a lot. It means a lot, because if somebody's watching, like me being on your channel, that's going to mean a lot, because people who like you, I think, can rock with me. Like, I think so. Yeah. And so, like, you know, if the right person, I will say, like, not always does the thing that was happening a lot in like the 2016, 2017 of here's 10 small creators I like, or more often like, here's 10 women, here's 10 people of color you should watch. Go watch Taylor. And then a lot of people like guilt subscribe to me, and they don't watch me anymore.
Yeah, that happened to me a lot in 2020, which also comes with its own very strange baggage. That's just, you know, it's weird, and it's like, I'd rather you come because you like it,
right?
Not because of white guilt. You know what I mean? To be
Yes.
perfectly honest. But
It's
yeah.
real. Yeah, I mean,
Eh.
yeah, like word of mouth in a sincere way can be
Yeah.
really, really useful. And it's gotten me
Yeah.
every job I've ever had, so I'm like, I'm not gonna be mad about it. But yeah, I just learned that success for me is very, very, very detached from what those numbers are. Has nothing to do with them. So I try not to let them affect me. Although, you know, I'm a person. My brain is wired the
Yeah.
same way everybody's brain is. I'm like, number go up, good. Number go down, bad. So
Yes. Do you think so as an emerging creator, I still just LOL.
you just love that. The
Just
title
like,
of this episode is
wow.
going to just be like emerging creators.
Well, what's that saying? It takes 10 years to become an overnight success, quote
You know
unquote.
what? Then I am about due.
I just think it's interesting that you kind of can't tell me when your emerging is done. You know what I mean? Because I
But
know
here's
when
the
my
thing. I think
emerging
that
will be
anybody who
done.
can tell you is lying because they're going to move the
What?
goalposts too.
I mean, that's fair.
If you told me, Taylor, I'm gonna make it when I have a feature film that's funded by a major studio, you release that film and you're like, what's next? Who am I now?
No, yeah, like you said it. You're like, am I not wrong? And I was like, oh, you're not. You're like reading me for filth right now. Like it hurts actually a little bit. Like, oh, the therapy session I didn't know I needed. I feel like my friends be giving me free therapy. I need to start paying y'all. Anyway.
The only reason I know that is because that moving of the goalpost has happened for me so many times already. There have been so many things where I'm like, oh, if I get this job, oh, if this person hires me to freelance for them, oh, if I get this many subscribers, oh, if I get this many views, like this will be it. And every time I've gotten there, I'm like, well, what am I now? Because I think probably the bottom of all of this is that like the extra, like the validation cannot be external. Someday I will learn that lesson, but I can't articulate it to you because I've gone past so many of those checkpoints and still been like, okay, why am I not fulfilled? I think we're just like that's kind of the curse of being a creative is you're just always going to be chasing it.
I just refuse to believe that. I don't want that for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be able to take a nap.
Well, I mean, like, look, the other thing is I have made this big change in my life so that I could do that. Like so that I could not be freelancing on top of my job, on top of my personal creative projects. Like I don't work on weekends right now. Like that is revolutionary for me. So like in a way, yeah, like if you're asking me what career success looks like, I don't know, what's the next thing? But if you're asking me what like life success looks like, all in a lot of ways I have it.
Yay.
And that's really cool.
I think it's just because I'm very glass half full. I'm like, no, I need some positivity. You can't tell me it's doom and gloom because then why do anything?
I don't think it's doom and gloom. I'm not saying that to be doom and gloom. I'm just saying that to say, gosh, I hope I never just get to a point and I'm like, okay, I'm here. Just gonna chill here for the rest of my life. I mean, that's where I was. I think that's what I mean when I say that I think that I waited too long, is because I was just sitting there in my plateau, chilling. And then I was like, okay, well, if I just keep doing this little like, you know, work on the side of my day job, this is just gonna be it. How do I grow? I need to pull the rug out from under myself to grow. And so like, I don't mean to say like you'll never be happy, although like but I hope that I never stop growing. And in that way, there's always going to be something else that I'm chasing for success.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I think actually for me, success on the channel would be just I know people have mixed feelings about Disney, myself included, but he said like you don't make movies to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You make money so you can make movies,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is so true. Like making movies is a rich person's game, to be sure. And so I feel like my success will be, can I make a living doing other things that I enjoy just as much?
Mm-hmm.
So that way I can make the shows or tell the stories I want to tell and have the budget to do it. And I feel like once I hit that, then I have hit what my new level of success is until maybe I hit it. And then, like you said, I move the goalpost again. But for now, that's like, if I can fund my own stuff for the most part, I've made it.
Yeah, there's a book that I read over the summer called Having and Being Had. The author is Eula Biss.
Ooh.
It's really good. It's like a very narrative exploration of capitalism and like who owns our time, is what I choose to do for other people. Like they own part of me,
Yeah.
And who do I own and whose time do I own? And a big thing that she does as an author is she takes a job, she works until she has money to take some time to write, and then writes until she needs to take a job. And I was like, oh, like there's nothing wrong with that. Like you can just go, you can step in it and out of it and in it and out of it. Like when I was telling myself, like, I'm going to go full-time freelance, like I can go get another W-2 and then I can do that for a while and then I can stop. Like, I think that there's a vision of success that we have that is super, super linear. And I don't necessarily think that it has to be like up and down graph. I think it's more circular, right? Like I'm going to return to this idea. I'm going to return to this kind of work. I'm going to go get what I like out of this. I'm going to come back to this thing. So like, it doesn't have to be so judgmental of like, oh, I'm taking a step back if I go and get a full-time job again. It's just like, oh, I want something out of that that's useful to me right now. And then when it's not, I'm going to go do something else. And so like, it doesn't have to be so focused on, well, am I winning or am I losing right now? It's like, I'm just in this part of the circle.
I love that. Yeah. I think something I try to tell people as well is it's nothing is absolute,
Yeah.
Like just because people see where I'm at or even where you're at too right now, they see it as success in their mind. It's like, yeah, for right now, living in the present, I'm doing all right. We'll see about next year. Next year I might be out here working at Starbucks. You just don't know. And I will not be above that at all. Right. That is what needs to happen. But then, something I've realized for myself was that, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing to make a living. I'll always be telling stories using the medium of video. So as long as I'm doing that as well, I feel successful.
Yeah, but I think so too. Like, I mean, you talked about like, well, what if next year, like I'm working at Starbucks, like I'm always going to be writing my whole life. I'm going to write. You know how many things that you can write about working at a Starbucks, like in a way that you necessarily, you don't necessarily get when you're just like sitting and being an artist. Like what is my, like what experiences am I getting to tell stories about? And that's, you get that anywhere.
As we conclude, are there any sort of tangible takeaways you want to give to other emerging creators?
Tangible takeaways. I would say one, for a very long time, I would talk about how great it is to have a day job until I didn't have one, but like take advantage of having the freedom to make whatever you want and not have to do the best practices and follow the rules and play the game. You may want to do that and you can do that, like explore that as much as you want. But the moment something doesn't feel good to you, you don't have to do it. That's the freedom of having a day job. Something that I've been learning and that I think more people in this industry in creative fields should explore is that like you being the face of something is not the only way to be successful. You can be making really creative stuff on a team or behind the scenes. I think that we do a real disservice to think that like getting famous is the only way to be creatively successful. The other thing that I've been exploring in recent years is like grants and fellowships. Like that does not get talked about a lot in the like online video space. It's always just like brand deals and sponsorships. It's like there are people who just want to pay you to make something because it like is nice for the world. There's a lot of different paths you can take. And I think for me, success is going to look like taking like 6 of them at a time.
I think that's what it ends up being for most people. It's just some people like fight it in a way. And it's like, no, you're going to have like 4 to 6. You just need to pick what they are, and that be what it is.
Yeah. And I fight things in my own way, right? I fight the world of titles and thumbnails. Like there, you choose what you get to push back on and you choose what you get to work with.
So there you have it. I hope this conversation with Taylor was helpful, especially if there's a few of y'all out here who've been at it for a minute, been in the content creation space for a while, and you're not necessarily seeing the growth that you thought you would. It is a long game. I feel like talking to someone like Taylor can give you just a different perspective on what it's like, long-term strategy, long-term growth plans with being a content creator in the space. In the comments below, let me know if this was helpful, what part of it was. There's only 2 more episodes in the Trying to Be Somebody podcast for season 1. So I am trying to figure out, like, what does season 2 look like at all, you know? So let me know in the comments below if there's someone you'd like me to interview, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening, hit me up on Instagram at hallease.mp4 and, shoot me a message. Let me know what you're feeling with the Trying to Be Somebody podcast, because it's always helpful to get direct feedback. Seriously, I'm a Virgo. I love it. I love me some constructive criticism. I live for it. All that to say, I'm Hallease, endeavoring to persevere as always. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on the Trying to Be Somebody video podcast, and I will see you in the next one.
I'm just trying to be somebody to make a way.